This is a frog spearhead from a sports store. They didn't have any fish spearheads, and like for carp, you really want a bigger, really big spearhead. I'm trying with this. So this is 2 sections, a 4-foot galvanized pipe. I got like 8-foot, 113-pound line. One tied off to this handle on the boat, and the other tied off to that. So this is like my fishing spear. This right here is mud flats. You know, like right over there. I think I just, no, you can still see one. It's hard to say. You can see the back of a carp sticking out of the water, because it's like in 6 inches of water, 4 inches of water right up on the shore, right over in there. It's kind of going in and out of the shore. So there was 2 carp there, at least 2. I saw 2 carp. Their backs sticking out of the water about an inch. One of them swam this way. So this video is gigging carp. So like when you do these tridents to harpoon fish, like spear throw fish, that's called gigging, Gigging. And I thought there was I thought it was a lot more restrictive. So I looked up my wildlife guide for Tennessee, Fish and Wildlife, TWRA guide. There's really not that much restrictions. There's like, I think, 1 body of water we are not allowed to do it. There's maybe like 5 bodies of water where there's a season for it, and then the rest is just have at it, do whatever, dude. So, and it's the same with that's the carp right there. That's the back of a carp. 2 carp. There's 1 carp. There's another carp. I'm trying to get into the shallows. You'd think, oh, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. I haven't gotten a single fish yet. So this is really heavy, this spear. So it's not really a long-term thing. They're kind of cruising out that way now. I had a carp like 3 foot away from me, come up at that. I still missed it. The closest I've gotten is like 5 scales, 6 scales, like a gray shot where I got a bunch of scales. I didn't get the fish. I like that it's heavy because it's got a lot of power behind it. This thing will sink into the mud 10 inches, maybe a foot, something like that, so it just stays stuck in. It doesn't really go down. So it's got enough power behind it. I got to throw it as hard as I can throw it. So, it's got a oomph to get into the fish. I'll probably end up making it lighter. But this isn't my primary way of getting fish. So I pulled all my trot lines. And now I'm doing an alternative method for catching catfish. I just set this alternative method. I'm gonna see if I can catch any catfish that way. So the bad thing about carp is they got bones in them. So you fillet them, and then you got all these Y bones that you gotta take out. So it's a hassle. Other than that, I'm gonna deep fry the fish and all that jazz so much that I won't probably even be able to tell the difference between the taste of a carp and a catfish. I'll get more meat off of a carp, but a carp is more scary because it is bigger. These things are 3 or 4 foot long. 3 or 4 foot long, so they got a lot of power behind them, which is another reason why I like having a stocky pole. But this is just getting used to it, getting an idea for it. But that's what this video is going to be, gigging carp. See if I can catch anything. I probably won't, but I'm going to give it a try. So I'm right-handed, that's why I got it tied off here. So it's kind of like, do my, from right here to right here is kind of like that little 15, 20 degree, 30 degree angle is kind of my range. Yeah, I got another one over there. I think me moving my arm just scared him though. You know, there's like a school of them that's usually, this is a good spot. Going right around that bend is another good spot. This whole area, any of these mud flat areas are good spots for this because this is fairly shallow water. There's like a tail fin over there coming through. That's a carp right there, like its tail fin. It's got its head on the ground, eating whatever mud, and then its tail's up in the air. But those guys are the most shallow, and they got their heads going in, so they're the least obvious. So I'm gonna try out those first, and kind of loop my way around this way, and then maybe go out that way. But yeah, it's still catfish that I'm hoping for. But I need a consistent. Here we got one coming in. I need a consistent source of food. That's a little wake that a carp is making because it's so shallow. It's like 18 inches, 2 foot deep right there. He just scares a bunch of minnows. So I mean, there's a lot of carp around here, but I still haven't gotten any. I've tried it twice now, 2 days, you know, maybe like a few hours each time. The good thing is it's relaxing. This is the most relaxing hunting method. Yeah, this guy's coming up on me kind of, so maybe I'll give him a go first. I don't know. Anyways, I'm gonna get this set up and then go out for those. The key to the carp is to go slow. Splash will set them off. It'll be a chain reaction, and they'll be all over the place. I won't even know it until they do that chain reaction. So we just had Hurricane Ida come through yesterday. It only dropped like 3 or 4 inches of rain here. Got a couple over there. Nothing major. But, what do you call it? It's gotten this water all cloudy again. So it's about 6 inches visibility. So you really can't. This is visual hunting. And we can only see 6 inches down. They could be right, I could be right over one right now and not even know it, even though this is like 2 foot of water, 18 inches of water, coming up on like 12 inches of water up here. There's almost a risk of, yeah, I'm not seeing these. Oh! Nope. There was one right there. But it's murky water. You know, that was maybe like 18 inches deep water that it was in. And, you know, I had no clue that it was there. Because it was laying flat on the bottom. But they do that. They got a lot of power, these carp. Like, a ton of power. So I'm almost a little scared of getting one. Just because of what it might do. Crap. Oh shit. It's on the wrong side though. That was just a pot shot right there. He was getting away. So I just went for it. I wasn't ready. So I only got 8 foot of line on here. This is just some scrap that I had, so I used it.
and it's actually about all I can actually handle. Like, as far as I can throw this thing. So it's like, I wait too late, and they see me. I get a perfect shot, but I miss, because I'm still learning to throw this thing, and it's heavy. Or I don't even see them, it's just too murky. So, starting out, I thought this was like kind of a surefire bet, getting one of these, a carp, spearing it like this, gigging it. But again, it's turned out to be a lot trickier than I thought. It's like a stick. That's crazy. There's another one, like 2 foot from me. I couldn't see it. And it also has to do with the sun. You know, you need the sun to be going good. Can't be looking into a glare. Lit by the sun so I can have a better chance of seeing, but I'm probably not going to get anything. To be honest, I'd be surprised if I get anything. It's too murky for me. Oh, yeah, we got one. Too murky for me to see. This guy's right. Oh, gee. It's like, you know, you got a few seconds. He swam off. He didn't see me. But I can see him because of the light and the shallow depth. But before I could get a shot off. So what I really want is to bow hunt fish. And bow hunting fish is the same as gigging fish around here in Tennessee. It's kind of I think those same locations that have seasons and restrictions on gigging have seasons and restrictions on bow hunting. But the vast majority of Tennessee waters is just have at it with, you know, bow hunting and gigging. With a bow, I can do that a lot better. This right here is real rough on my shoulder, so I want it really heavy like this, because these are strong fish, you know, so they're gonna have a hard time dragging around a 40-pound spear, you know. So I mean, 40-pound spear, they got thick scales, big thick scales, so a 40-pound spear can puncture them, and it's gonna have a hard time, it's gonna slow them down, so they can't like just dart off and tip my canoe over or something. But a bow, for bow fishing, it's like $400, and they're all sold out. And so are like fish spears. This is a frog spearhead. It's the biggest I could find. I couldn't find any fish spearheads in the store, or any fishing bows in the store. So it's kind of I heard on the radio today that there's a new round of people hoarding toilet paper. So I may not be able to get a bow or a proper fish spear. So, I got something now, which is better than nothing. But if this alternative fishing method works for catfish, it'll be my go-to way of getting it, just because it's the easiest way. As far as I'm concerned, it's the easiest way. And least resource. Doesn't use that many resources. Trot lines is pretty easy, but it goes through a lot of resources. You need to stock a lot of hooks and material for it. So hopefully this alternative catfish method will work out. And my next video will be a fish fry with catfish. But, if it doesn't, I'm going to keep trying it for a while, because I just got in one spot right now. It's not really a prime spot, but all things considered, it's a good spot. I'm going to give it a while at this spot. And then, this is Wednesday, so I have Wednesday night, Thursday night. 2 nights at this spot. And then, switch spots next week. That was a bit of a long shot. I didn't want him getting away. He knew something was up because he changed course. And he was heading away, but he didn't dart off. So I still had a shot. So I decided to take it even though it wasn't prime. Get that screwed in a little better. So it's not an ideal setup, this right here. Ideal would be bow fishing. Or perhaps I'm thinking a 4 foot section, followed by maybe some wood. So it's not as heavy as this, but still heavy. Oh, and an actual fishing spearhead, which is more of like a beefy trident, for gigging carp. Rather than this little baby spearhead. I'm thinking this little baby spearhead is enough. So now the sun's kind of like behind some clouds, and I can't see anything now. But with people hoarding toilet paper, it's kind of running out of time for ideal setups. So really I just need a setup. Because like a pescatarian diet is a pretty standard diet, a lot of people do it. So fish and veg, I could see myself doing that pretty easy. And enough people live off of it. It's like enough of a mainstream diet, pescatarianism, that you gotta get all your nutrition from it somehow. I don't know how, but it's gotta be a fairly balanced diet. bad thing is that, according to Tennessee, there's only, a precaution for eating bass in these waters. But then the very bottom of this lake, right where the dam is in Kentucky's waters. So like that lower portion of this lake is Kentucky waters. And according to Kentucky, you're only supposed to eat, I think, 1 meal a week or 1 meal a month of carp and catfish from these waters. Granted, these are Tennessee waters that I'm in, but it's the same lake. So, I mean, Tennessee's like, it's not that bad. But Kentucky's like, you really don't want to be living off of it. So, it's a normal diet, pescatarianism, but even in these relatively clean waters, still probably get like some kind of organ failure and all that. So, the thing with pollution is, it takes a while for it to go away. Stop polluting, it's still in there. It's kind of like sediment will build up on top of it and it'll be kind of forgotten. But then you'll have like Hurricane Ida or the Waverly flooding. The sediment will get washed out, back up, like all this sediment, just from overnight. It did have a visibility of 12 inches the day before yesterday, but now it's down to like 6. After like Waverly flood, I couldn't see anything, and then it got up to like 12 inches of depth visibility before this Ada came through. Now it's back down to like pretty much no visibility. There's a carp over here. Saw him do this like little feeding thing. I haven't seen him scurry away yet, so he's probably still in this general area. I'm not seeing him, which means I'm going to be ending up right on top of him before he takes off. It'll startle me. So somehow, I don't know how, I may end up getting a job here pretty soon. Like, maintenance at a hotel maintenance. I'm guessing that they've seen my resume, seen that I've gone through 4 jobs in the last 13 months, and they just don't care. So they're hiring for 4 positions, which, something's up, like, that's like the whole staff right there, whole maintenance crew just walked off or got fired. So it's probably going to end up being a bad job, but you never know. If they have 4 openings that they're trying to fill at one time, that's probably why they don't care about my high rate of turnover, because they're used to it. They have their own high rate of turnover. They're like, oh, this guy sticks around for like 3 months. That's better than what our plays usually do. Usually we only get 1 month out of them. Maybe that's why they're interested in hiring me. You never know. There's a lot of preps I need to get still. A lot of stuff. So even if it is a bad job, I wouldn't mind. It's it says starting at 20 an hour, which you never really know if they're being truthful or not. Like a lot of times, like the actual people doing the hiring are disappointed that you bring up that the ad said that, like, because they're hoping to get you for under it. And you turn around. Again. So it's a bit of an investment, bow, fishing bow, and I'll have to order it online. I think I'm gonna go ahead and order it anyways, just because when it feeds you, it pays for itself. But then it's kind of like with any piece of equipment, you end up needing, it ends up, you know, costing a lot more than its actual cost. You know, 'cause there's a dark spot. That might be a carp. Nah, that's too basic. Like getting extra bows and extra line, you know, it's like you end up, you know, $400 for the piece of equipment and then $400 for side things. Kind of what you can expect. And when it's like 400 is maybe like a year's worth of food, kind of like, do I really want to make that investment? You know, you're looking at, you know, for the 800 thing, 2 years of food stocked away. Do I really want to spend it then on a bow and bow materials? And it's kind of like, yeah, because, you know, I got that 800 worth of food, that 2 years worth of food stocked away already. So this is going to provide diversity, fresh meat, you know, which when you're living off of, you know, dried beans and rice and cake mixes and flours, you know, and pastas, you know, having fresh meat is worth it. So I'm probably going to go ahead and so I can't find it in the stores. It's all sold out in the stores in Nashville. All the sporting goods stores, you know, I was looking online, like out of stock, out of stock, out of stock. But I could always order one, you know. Now that I see that it's going to be this difficult gigging, you know, it's kind of like I get all these quote unquote easy shots with a harpoon, you know, with the spear, and I can't make them. You know, it's more difficult than you think. Being this low to the water, you know, it's probably got a lot to do with it. You know, this is a low angle, you know, shallow angle that I'm spearing from. So the water surface and water substance does play a lot in that. And it's not a prime spear. So I think what I'll probably end up doing is just ordering a fishing spearheads, a couple fishing spearheads, spearheads, whatever they got for carp, and fishing bow. The closest I could get in town is like $200 for an attachment that you put on a bow, a regular like deer bow, normal bow. But it looked like the line in that, it wasn't a spool, it was just a container that you bundled the line up in. It looked like it would get tangled all the time, that line. So you go to shoot, it would get tangled and yank the bow from your hand or something. Tweak it, just be problems. So it was kind of, and it was like $200. It was like $200 for something that's just going to cause problems. I don't think so. I thought about it, you know, I gave it a couple minutes of thought. But in general, it's better just to save like $200 and apply it towards a bow fishing bow, a proper one that'll unspool good. You know, like if it tangles or has resistance, it's gonna make that arrow fly bad. And I definitely want to be able to feed myself off of the land. So I got the books, you know, for mushrooms and plants. Could use a more in-depth plant one, you know. That Idiot's Guide to Foraging is a great, quick, you know, that's your big obvious things that you see out and about. But there's still a lot of plants, like hog peanut, which isn't in there. But it still grows out here, hog peanut. I have found hog peanut since then. I looked up what hog peanut is. It's basically the same thing. Makes a little pea pod and it does little tubers, but it does its tubers like a peanut does, where it has a lower flower that shoves itself into the ground and turns into the peanut. Or at least I think there's hog peanuts out here. I got things that look like them, but they're not far enough along in development to really tell. wait to see if they make pea pods. And if they do, then I'll call them hog peanuts. Not just one instance. There's still a lot more plants out here that aren't in that book. That's a great one to have. I just want to add to it. This is definitely my favorite kind of hunting, though. Just a slow, leisurely paddle. Granted, with a bow, I could do that from shore. Just go around on shore, collecting things. Bad thing about collecting things on shore is you're also collecting ticks and mosquito bites. And poison ivy, rash. Don't have to deal with any of that out here on the water. So they're lowering the water level. But it has like another 2 foot of lowering to go before it's about at like low water level. I want to say in about 2 more feet, 2.5, maybe 3 feet, it'll be at low water level. And at that point, I should be seeing clams. And hopefully the water will clear up to where I can see down 18 to 24 inches. Has 18 to 24 inch visibility. And you know, you can see the clams in those shallows. I'm gonna grab them. So at that point, you know, I could be clamming and harp gigging at the same time, but at this water level, high water level, it's, if I'm out here gigging, I'm not getting anything else, you know. Whereas if I were on the shore, bowfish bow, I could be picking mushrooms and leaves and things. Like this right here is it's kind of, I'm guessing it's on the that kind of grassy bank that's floating, like a little mat of leaves that's floating in the water. That's edible. I think it's called. I'd have to look. It's in that book. I'd have to look at it again. It's like alligator grass, I think. Crocodile weed, something like that. It's edible, but you know, it's loaded with all kinds of nasty bacterias and protozoas from being in this water. So it's not a prime thing. I'll take something, my grasses from on land, where they're dry and all they got are stick hawk. blind. So this is actually just state land, I think. It's not even TVA land. Because this, I think, it's either... Oh, wow, there's a carp right there. I didn't even see him. The shore over is TVA, but these islands, those islands, Rex Island is state land. And I don't know if this little island here is considered an island or shore. I'd have to look at the map closer. So this is, right on the border of TVA versus state. TVA, you're not supposed to use screws and nails in anything you build. It's supposed to be more primitive building that you do. Which may be why it's on if this is state. That may be why it's on state land, not TVA land. But I want like a shelter and perimeter fencing set up before I do any real fishing. And I guess probably the best way to catch fish is to use a fishing pole. Unless this alternative catfish method works. If this alternative catfish method works, it may be the best way. So there's another big mud flat over there, but that's kind of far away. Mostly under the shade right now because it's sunset. It's late today. Wow. Setting up my alternative catfish method. It's actually like nice day out today. It's like, I don't know, low 80s. And this is like a nice breeze right here. Probably messing with the microphone. Get it turned around out of that sound. This is one of the first nice days. It's been a scorcher. All of August has just been incredibly hot, unbearably so. Where it's just, you can only be out on the water for so long before you get dehydrated and overheated. You gotta go in. But today, kind of cool, like low 80s and a cool breeze. Could be out on the water for a while. But I saw what I needed to see from this gigging try. I definitely want a beefier spearhead and lighter spear rod for carp. I kind of got it backwards. So, I don't want to just settle with having these and calling it a good stock, good end times, safety net. I'm going to want to stock something better. Granted, I haven't given this enough tries to get good at it, Once I do get a good throw. Oh, there's a carp right there. I didn't even see it. Once I do get my throw down. Wow, and one right there. So right now I'm like going right over these things. I got the light going in the good direction. I got it, so I can see. I have the light behind me, behind my range. It's still too murky to see, so it's just too cloudy of it. Too murky. The water's just too murky today to make use of these opportunities. and it'll probably be the same way tomorrow. Takes, yeah, I just went right over another one. Yeah, so that's like 3 carp, you know, that I've just gone over in the last minute. That were literally right under the canoe, right under the kayak. This is probably about 2 foot of water I'm in, but I can't see them. I can only see the cloud they kick up when they realize I'm over them. So once the water clears up though, I will have a lot more shots. There's another carp just right underneath me. Yeah, I really need them to have their head down and their tail up, sticking out of the water. There's another carp right there. Or it was right there until I went over it. This water right here is a hair too deep for them to be doing that. Sticking their tails out of the water. There are a fair amount of gar that let you get within striking range that sit on the surface. But they're smaller and they hang around the sticks, you know, so I'm liable to get the spear stuck in the log. And or anything like that. There's alligator gar out here. There's like, I don't know, 4 or 5 varieties. There's the catfish box right there. That's what those boxes are. Those are for catfish noodling. The catfish go inside those boxes and you stick your hand down the opening of the box, and then, you know, they bite your hand and then you can pull them out. So that's what those boxes were. Those are for catfish noodling. Now that I've been back in society, I've watched more videos and I got a better idea of what goes on down here. Catfish noodling is too scary for me. I'm not going to do that. I'd rather just be sitting on the boat and throw a spear, or better yet, just shoot a bow and pop, get one. So ideally, I'd like to be able to catch a fish in 20 minutes, like a carp or a catfish. You know, that would be the ideal thing that I'm shooting for. When I can go out onto the water and within 20 minutes pull up a trap that's got something, or shoot something to catch it, or set enough rods that one of them catches something. And not something. Either a carp or a catfish. Those are kind of the food fish that I want. Bass seem to be too poisoned for me to want to try to do a pescatarian diet off of them. But I'll try pescatarian. Well, and I'm just saying pescatarian because red meat is a lot harder to get than fish. I'm assuming red meat is a lot harder to get than fish. Yeah. Looks like it's gonna be a bust, but that's not surprising, given that the water's too cloudy to see. And this is a visual method of fishing. If you can't see, you can't catch them. Yeah, like, you know, all that shoreline greenery is edible. probably has a strong taste of lake water. Ugh. Yeah, the bad thing about gigging is you're putting these spear points, which are muddy, they're muddy from getting into the mud, they're dirty. You're putting that into the side of the fish. So you're contaminating the meat, just putting bacteria, with this particular spear, 2-inch spear prongs, and putting bacteria 2 inches into the fish. So the spear side I have to eat immediately, the side of the fish that I spear, or at least that section of meat I need to eat that day, because it'll probably be rancid by the next day. Fish goes bad so fast, it's crazy. I could probably fry up the other half, with a carp. It's gonna take me probably 2 days to eat a carp, one side a day. Because these are big carp. I'm thinking 1.5 pound fillet off of each side. It's probably maybe 2 pound fillet off of each side is probably what I would get. And granted, I could probably eat 3 to 4 pounds of fish, but after doing that one day, I wouldn't want to eat fish again for a few days. So, I'm thinking if I do 1 pound to 1.5 pounds of fish every day, I get all the calories and protein that I need, and I'm not overdoing it to where I get sick of eating fish, It's a substantial portion of my diet, but it's not overwhelming my diet to make it nasty. And all I could really do is fry it in raccoon fat or bake it with oh, there is something. So hickory nuts got a good amount of oil. Now I want to say maybe hazelnuts have a good amount of oil. Both are around here. That foraging book does mention a nut that has a good amount. Oh, maybe it was acorns. Acorns, you can eat them. You get the tannins out of them, and you can eat them. I'm thinking he said you can get good oil from acorns. So that's another thing I need to get still. Prep I need to get, is a seed press, oil press. So I may do nut oils like hickory and acorn. But then red meat, I still want red meat every once in a while. Just to break up the monotony of the fish. And you need, you can only get some enzymes from red meat. Maybe like some kind of B vitamin or something. So raccoons are gonna be my targeted red meat animal. Carp and catfish for my targeted fish, and raccoon for my targeted red meat. As much for the meat as for the grease and fat. That looks like some oyster mushrooms right there. Nah, that doesn't matter. It's a small bunch. And it's gonna be a hassle getting them. I didn't think I'd be picking mushrooms while I'm in a kayak, but that's like a rare situation where you got mushrooms that you can pick, so you can still get some kind of food even though you're on the water. Oh wow. There goes another one. Carp. There he is. Man. One saw me. swam, but I saw the other one before it saw me, but I couldn't get positioned. It saw me before I could throw. Takes a bit trying to put down this paddle and pick up the spear, because they both occupy the same spot on this kayak. Kind of. One's always getting in the way of the other when I'm putting one down and picking one up. If it wasn't so cloudy, I would have saw him sooner, but I ended up being right on him before I saw him. This is, I guess, the difficulties of gigging. You can get within 5 feet of fish, like I'm getting within 5 feet of probably about 30 fish in this video. I've been within 5 feet of. I've only saw probably, because it's cloudy, I've only saw probably like 6 of those 30 fish, and I've only gotten off maybe 3 shots out of those 6 that I saw. That's kind of the difficulties of it, like when you're out here kayaking, it goes right next to you, it's kind of like, wow, I could just spear that, but, it's a little trickier than that, And granted, it'd be the same thing with bow fishing, the arrow would be deflected by the water a lot more often. I'd still have a hard time, when it's murky water like this. But, the bow I could leave right here at my feet, out of the way. So it'd be easier for me to put down the paddle and pick up the bow. And in general, I think if I had a bow, I would have gotten one of those 6 fish that I did see. I would have gotten, probably the first or second. That's kind of my general assumption going into it. Why I think it's a worthwhile investment getting a bowfish bow. So I'm thinking with that, I could do a 20-minute thing. It's very beautiful and tranquil. This is a Wednesday. Oh wow, this is one of those catfish boxes I just at the bottom of the kayak scraping. It's about to stick out of the water, but it hasn't yet. Yeah, this is a good way of getting hyacinth, I think. Hibiscus. Because it grows along these shorelines in little patches here and there. A bit too rare to hike to them, but kayaking to them might well. We're making like hibiscus tea. It's also good for some fruits. There's a persimmon tree here, and a persimmon tree there, and a persimmon tree the other place. There's like 3 persimmon trees that I know of. Good yielders. But they're really too far away to do, right now I can hike to them, because I don't mind. I need that exercise because I'm doing 3,000 calories a day. But if I'm doing 1,000 calories a day, I really don't want to be doing those long hikes. What do you call it? So I could kayak to each of those 3 trees, in a day. I probably wouldn't, just because it's a lot of kayaking for a single day. But it's possible. I'm gonna try that bay one more time. Good setup for catching fish. Just kind of my preps. And I've been trying to catch, granted, I've been very selective, targeting just catfish and just one method. But, now I'm doing a second method and a second fish, trot lining for catfish or gigging for carp. And you really can't be that selective when you really need the food. But I've been at it now for a month, I've been trying to get these fish. I haven't had any luck over an entire month. So it's like, like minnows, I'd probably be eating minnows because I can get minnows all right. Cut off the heads, cut off the entrails, and then fry them up. And if you do a batter, and then a little batter before frying them, it's supposed to taste like maybe like calamari or something. I never had calamari, but people that say that as if calamari tastes really good and their bait fish tastes really good. So I could have been eating bait fish, and here in a year it may be coming down to that, the way society's falling apart. The rate. So I used to say it's like we're falling, and we're falling from such a high height it takes forever to hit the ground. But now I guess a better analogy is, we're stumbling. We're like a runner that's running and they've tripped, and so they're like doing these really exaggerated steps, trying to catch their balance and keep from falling over. And it's kind of like those exaggerated steps keep getting more and more exaggerated as that fall is progressing, kind of each step is a means of avoiding the fall, of postponing the fall, and that's kind of what we got going on here with the collapsing society. A series of steps to postpone the collapse, and those steps are getting more and more drastic. And that's how you know that you're about to hit ground. You're about there. This is how drastic they are. And hitting ground for me is the mark of the beast. I consider that ground. That's where, I'm done. Oh wow, some more mushrooms right there. I didn't even see it. Some look like oysters. I don't know what they are. They're probably in that book, Just where end times I'd go ahead and pick them and then take them back with me and check that book to see what it was. Cross-reference the book. So with those one mushrooms, those bolets, most bolets are edible. And all of the ones that were close to that, there were like 4 or 5 varieties, very closely related varieties that resembled it, that bolet that I had. And all of them were edible, so it's kind of, if there were one of those was inedible or toxic, I would do a further lookup, you know. But when all of the similar varieties are edible, it doesn't really matter which particular variety. It just matters for, you know, so you can say the variety, you know. But as far as the actual thing, it doesn't matter. Oh, so I mean, yeah, I would take those oyster-looking mushrooms back, cross-reference in the book, and if it looked like all of the book mushrooms were similar book mushrooms were edible, I'd go ahead and eat them. But if there was and usually there's, you know, most people would probably call that bolita head a particular kind, and just not bothering with these highly defined varieties, you know, like that author really defined the varieties, you know, like the shape of the spores makes this variety versus that variety. You know, it's kind of like most people, when they look at spores, they just look at the color. You know, but this guy's looking at the spores through a microscope to see their shape as well, which is just a level of detail, you know, that's really just for educational purposes, not for practical purposes. It's not needed. And you're a practical mushroom gatherer, wouldn't even bother, you know. If there was a question, they would do the color of the spore print, but they would never actually look at the shape. That threw me off, you know. And I actually looked at the words in that book. You know, I like looking at the pictures more than the words, but I actually did look at the words once, and I was going over the shape of the spores. And I was like, wow, I don't really need to know the shape of the spores. Spiders, I don't got a microscope, you know. Just went right over one. I really need to see these fish when I can get them. I could do like a real big, like, seam net, I guess. But then that's kind of like a two-person project, using a seam net. One-person project. Too much of a hassle, so I'm not even going to bother getting a seam net because I'm a one-person thing. Oh, yeah. I'm focusing on feeding myself off of the land right now because, granted, you know, a few years ago when I started this, I was thinking it'd be a classical homesteading. That was kind of the plan I was going for. Goats and pigs and chickens, you know, growing feed for them, you know, and then butchering them for the food source. But you really need that's like a societal thing right there. It's really, it gets to be too involved for a single person to grow food for themselves, grow food to feed their livestock, you know, gather water for themselves, gather water for their livestock. You know, like a pig goes through 5 gallons of water a day, you know. That's like probably 3 days worth of water for me. Something like that, you know. But a pig would go through that in 5 days. So, I mean, if there's a drought, you know, I'm going to be hard pressed trying to feed the pig or get the pig water, you know, and feed the pig, you know. So it's like it takes so many calories, like, I don't know what it is, but it's pretty common information, you know. Let's say 100 calories of feed to make 1 calorie of beef, maybe like 50 calories of feed to make 1 calorie of pork, and maybe like 20 calories of feed to make 1 calorie of chicken. And it's kind of like just making calories of feed grain for myself is gonna be hard enough, you know. And then just trying to feed animals is really, for like old style homesteading where you have a wife and kids, you know, you have a team, you know, or better yet, you know, a village where you have, you know, multiple people, multiple specialists, you know. But for a single person to handle it, it just becomes a hassle, and at that point it just becomes more economical, and it's seeming to me now, you know, kind of just dipping my toes in the water like I've been doing. It seems now that it's a lot more long term, you know, like my body can handle it, for me just to do more, focus more on foraging and less on, you know, farming. Doing farming, but not getting all of my stuff from farming. Especially not my meats, you know, because your meats, it takes, I don't know if those were exact numbers, you know, that was just a guesstimate, you know, 100 calories for 1 calorie, or 40 calories or 20 calories, you know, for 1 calorie. Those meats, it's a lot better for me to forage. Because it's just one person, you know. And it makes sense, you know, to let nature raise these animals, and let me just collect them. I just need to find that good way of collecting them. The good ones to collect, and the good way of collecting them. Yeah, so that's gonna be it for this video. Sun setting. I'm gonna park the canoe. Beautiful lake. Wow, it actually looks like a sunset on the camera, or at least on this viewfinder of the camera. It looks like a sunset over there, but it's not. It's kind of, I don't know if, you know, it's a little hazy, and as my eye sees it, it's a little hazy. It almost looks like a purple sunset, but it is getting close to sunset. Yeah, it's definitely, you know, like if this were actual, I'm done with society, you know, there's no more food to be had, you know, from society, and I gotta feed myself. You know, this right here is like verge of mental breakdown. Going a month trying to get a food item and failing, you know, like each day failing, you know, and kind of wearing down more and more each day, you know, like you can feel yourself fading away, you know, and it becomes harder and harder to do what you did yesterday, and what you did yesterday wasn't good enough. So it's kind of like, you know, I'm definitely glad I'm taking the time out right now to try out these things, when I can just, you know, I'm gonna have some sausages and eggs, you know, like breakfast smoky links and some scrambled eggs that I made this morning. And that's what I'm gonna have this evening. You know, it's like I don't need a fish. You know, if I actually did catch the carp, it'd be kind of problematic because I already got food set aside to eat. You know, I'll still eat the carp, you know, just to see what it tastes like, you know, and I'll let my food go for another day. But what do you call it? It's simpler not catching a fish than catching one right now. But at least I'm figuring out what not to do. So when I'm stressing about it because I actually need it, I'll be able to get it, you know? There's a movie I just watched. It's called Girl in the Woods. It may be a real story, or based off of a real story. You never know. They show some newspaper articles at the end, but you never know if those are real newspaper articles or just made up for the movie. Low budget movie, but beautifully done. Very ambitious. The first third of the movie is it's so ambitious you don't really know what the person's trying to do because it's kind of original like that. So it's mildly interesting that first third, but then you kind of start to see what the guy's doing, this writer, director guy. And it's a really good movie, but it's kind of like, I guess the unrealistic thing is that this girl does survive, girl lost in the woods, and, she becomes kind of like a cannibal, like eating hikers and children and campers, because she's, got mental issues, and she's not on her meds. But kind of like the desperate, it really does, that movie really does capture some of the desperation you would feel in a situation like that. Kind of the panic, and all of that. So, it's definitely worth, I think, for everyone to figure out their alternative food sourcing. Granted, a millionaire's got like $1 million worth of freeze-dried food stuff somewhere, in his bunker. But for the average person, it'll be good to figure out your food sourcing now, because once you depend on it, you start to panic when you don't get it. And you really don't want to be in that situation where you're panicking, because it's going to be stressful enough. Yeah, that's it for this one though. Gigging for carp.
Snake had got maybe a lizard or something.